This is the kind of breakup story that gets 30 million men nodding because they've lived the same nightmare. One guy watched half his business vanish overnight. Another got slapped with payments he never agreed to. And the wildest part? None of these disasters are flukes. They're patterns, repeatable, predictable, and waiting for the next man who thinks, "My situation is different." Because almost every man who's been blindsided by a breakup carries a story that chills you to the bone. The ex who cheats but still wants support. The one who leaves for someone else yet demands a piece of everything you built. The one who walks out by choice, then plays the victim louder than anyone. These situations feel personal when they hit you, but they happen far more often than people admit. And that's why this video matters. Not to insult your ex, not to dramatize your pain, but to expose the psychological patterns that turn normal breakups into emotional, legal, and financial war zones. Patterns that catch men off guard because no one warns them beforehand. Patterns that can drain your sanity, your savings, and even your sense of reality if you don't see them coming. So if you've ever felt confused, blamed, gaslit, or punished for things you didn't do, don't go anywhere. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why these situations keep happening, and more importantly, how to protect yourself before the damage hits, not after. If you think the chaos ends with the breakup itself, wait until you meet the entitlement that shows up afterward. It's almost surreal how many people believe they're owed a piece of your life simply because they were present for it. Not because they built it with you, not because they sacrificed anything, just because they existed in the same house while you worked yourself half to death. And the moment the relationship ends, that entitlement turns into a full-blown narrative. I was there, so half of it is mine. It sounds ridiculous until you watch judges, lawyers, and even social circles nod along like it's perfectly reasonable. This mindset is why so many men end up shocked in court, mediation, or even casual conversations. The person who never lifted a finger suddenly talks as if your success magically belongs to them. It's a psychological twist that forms long before the breakup. When someone gets comfortable benefiting from your effort without contributing, they start confusing proximity with ownership. They convince themselves that your achievements are a shared asset, even when the only thing they shared was the couch. And when the relationship ends, that fantasy doesn't die. It grows teeth. What's worse is how quickly entitlement morphs into victimhood the moment they don't get the exact payout they imagined. They don't see the decade you spent grinding, the sleep you lost, the risks you took, or the opportunities you sacrificed. They only see what they believe they're missing out on. So instead of accepting reality, they accuse you of hiding money, being unfair, or forgetting everything they supposedly contributed. The irony is that the contribution they remember rarely matches what actually happened. Their memory rewrites itself to protect their ego, and suddenly, you're the villain in a movie they directed and starred in. This is why so many men feel blindsided. You assume you're dealing with the same person you lived with. You think logic will matter. You expect the truth to hold weight. But entitlement isn't logical. It's emotional self-preservation. It's someone telling themselves a story where they never lose. And if you don't understand this psychology, you'll walk into every negotiation, every argument, and every legal process already 3 steps behind. This is the part most men miss. Entitlement doesn't show up because of the breakup. It shows up because the breakup exposes it. And once it comes out, it doesn't go back in. That's why recognizing it early is not optional. It's your first line of defense before the real battle begins. The strangest twist happens after entitlement shows its face, the emotional backlash from the person who chose to leave you. Most men expect distance, silence, or maybe even relief once a breakup is finalized. What they don't expect is the sudden wave of blame, anger, and emotional chaos coming straight from the person who insisted they'd be happier without you. But this backlash isn't random. It's the shock that hits when fantasy collides with reality. People who initiate breakups often imagine a clean escape. In their minds, leaving equals freedom. They picture instant happiness, new romance, effortless improvement, and a life where every problem magically disappears because you were the obstacle. They script a future where everything gets better the moment they walk out the door. But when reality replaces the fantasy, when loneliness creeps in, dating humiliates them, money gets tight, or the new partner loses interest, they can't handle the contradiction. Instead of admitting they made a mistake, they reach for the easiest psychological shortcut: blaming you. This is why men get blindsided by late-night calls, emotional outbursts, and dramatic accusations from the very person who slammed the door behind them. It makes no sense logically, but emotionally it fits perfectly. Accepting responsibility would require them to face their own decisions. Blaming you allows them to avoid that discomfort. It becomes the story they tell themselves to survive the guilt of choosing wrong. And once that story forms, they double down on it, even when the facts don't support it. The wild part is how convincingly they deliver that story. They cry harder. They talk louder. They build narratives where you're the villain, not because it's true, but because it protects their ego from collapse. A failed new relationship becomes your fault. Their loneliness becomes something you caused. Their regret gets twisted into proof that you never made them happy. And this emotional gymnastics is so intense that many men start questioning their own memory, wondering if they really did something wrong. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. Emotional backlash isn't evidence of your failure. It's evidence of their fantasy breaking apart. You're not the trigger, you're the nearest target. And the sooner you recognize this pattern, the less power it has over you. Because once you stop absorbing their guilt, their emotional attacks stop being weapons. They become noise, loud, dramatic, and completely disconnected from reality. The emotional backlash is only half the story. Behind it sits something most men never realize until it's too late. Many breakups aren't spontaneous. They're calculated, quietly rehearsed, strategically timed. People rarely walk out of a long-term relationship without a plan, especially when the plan promises a softer landing. And this is where the grass is greener delusion takes over. They convince themselves there's something better waiting on the other side, even if that belief has zero connection to reality. What makes this mindset so dangerous is how confidently they buy into it. They tell themselves they'll find someone who understands them better, someone more exciting, someone who magically eliminates every insecurity they never dealt with. They picture a life where relationships are effortless, money appears, and a new partner fills every emotional gap they never learned to face. That fantasy becomes their fuel. It justifies every cold moment, every distant mood, every strange change in behavior leading up to the breakup. In their mind, they're not leaving you, they're upgrading. But that imagined upgrade is fragile. It's built on assumptions, fantasies, and desperation to escape the effort required to fix themselves. And because they never admit that, they quietly rewrite the story. Suddenly, they didn't leave for a new opportunity. They left because you weren't enough. They paint themselves as enlightened, not impulsive. They tell themselves they're pursuing happiness, not running from their own emptiness. This self-deception is what turns simple breakups into psychological warfare. Then comes the twist men never see coming. When that fantasy partner disappoints them, when the new life feels hollow, or when the excitement fades faster than they expected, the regret hits hard. But instead of acknowledging they misjudged everything, they panic. They scramble for someone to blame. They accuse you of driving them away, even if you begged for communication. They accuse you of making them unhappy, even if they checked out long before you noticed the shift. Their failed calculations turn into emotional accusations because admitting miscalculation is too painful for their ego. This is why you need to understand the hidden motives behind the breakup. It wasn't always about love dying or compatibility fading. Sometimes it was about someone chasing a fantasy version of themselves. Sometimes it was about someone believing they could level up just by leaving you behind. And when that fantasy fails, they come back with anger, confusion, and stories that make zero sense because they're trying to defend a decision they don't want to admit was wrong. Once you understand the fantasy they were chasing, you start to see the next phase of the pattern. Most people don't jump unless they already have somewhere soft to land. Breakups rarely happen in a clean, honest vacuum. More often, they happen because someone has been emotionally rehearsing their exit while quietly building a safety net on the side. This is the branch-swinging blueprint. They don't let go of you until they're holding on to someone else. And that next person doesn't have to be better. They just have to be available. What makes this so brutal for men is how invisible it looks until the very end. The withdrawal starts small. They become colder, harder to reach, more reactive, more distant. They pick fights that make no sense. They twist small issues into proof the relationship is broken. You think you're dealing with stress, routine, miscommunication. You try harder. You become more accommodating. You don't realize they're not fixing the relationship. They're preparing a story that explains why they had to leave. And while they're rewriting the past in their head, they're also cultivating someone new in the background. The backup partner doesn't always look like a romantic replacement at first. Sometimes it's a work friend, a gym buddy, someone who really understands them. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical, but the role is the same. A landing spot, a temporary ego boost, a mirror that tells them they deserve better. And once that backup connection feels solid enough, they make their exit with confidence they didn't earn. They walk away like someone who's moving on to a better chapter, not someone running from accountability. But here's the part that flips the script every time. Backups rarely live up to the fantasy that justified the split. The new person starts noticing red flags. The chemistry fades. The pedestal shrinks. The illusion cracks, because the truth is simple. The version of them the backup fell for was the edited version, the dramatic version, the "I'm the victim in my last relationship" version. Once the real dynamic shows up, the backup stops seeing them as a prize and starts seeing the damage they carry. And when that happens, the fallout boomerangs straight back to you. After the rebound collapses, they come crawling back with confusion, nostalgia, anger, or even entitlement. They expect emotional shelter from the very person they abandoned. They hope you'll validate their decision by making their return easy. But that return isn't about love. It's about losing the safety net they thought they had. It's about realizing that the next branch wasn't strong enough to hold them. When the backup branch snaps, the fantasy collapses with it. And that's when a second shockwave hits, the dating reality they never prepared for. People who leave long-term relationships almost always imagine They'll step into a world full of options, admiration, and instant emotional upgrades. In their minds, they're the prize waiting to be discovered. They believe the dating market will welcome them with open arms simply because they're starting fresh. But the real world doesn't care about their fantasy. The real world is brutally honest. The moment they step back into the dating pool, they face a truth they never considered. Value changes, time changes, priorities change, and the people they once thought would line up for them aren't lining up at all. Instead of admiration, they get silence. Instead of instant chemistry, they get indifference. Instead of romantic validation, they get ghosted, breadcrumbed, or treated as a temporary distraction. The dating market is efficient. It doesn't reward delusion. It doesn't pamper egos. It simply reflects what's available and what's not. This is especially true for those who walk out of a stable relationship thinking they'll immediately level up. They imagine younger partners, better partners, or partners with fewer demands. But the market rarely agrees. Younger people aren't interested in someone carrying emotional baggage, financial ties, or unresolved resentment. High-value partners don't want someone who just walked out of a long-term commitment in chaos. And the ones who are interested usually fall into two categories: people looking for convenience or people looking for vulnerability to exploit. It doesn't take long before they realize the dating pool they romanticized is actually a desert. A cold, unromantic, unpredictable landscape where excitement fades fast and rejection hits harder than they expected. And that's when the regret begins to simmer, not because they miss you, but because the life they expected isn't materializing. They start comparing their new reality to the stability they once had. They remember the comfort, the loyalty, the support, the routines they never appreciated. The very things they called boring or unfulfilling suddenly look like rare luxuries in a dating world full of uncertainty. That regret doesn't show up as humility. It shows up as resentment. They resent the world for not rewarding them. They resent themselves for believing their own assumptions. And sooner or later, they resent you, simply because you didn't fall apart, because you moved forward, because you became the version of yourself they thought they could find somewhere else. When reality forces them to confront their miscalculations, they don't apologize. They look for someone to blame, and the closest target is the person they left behind. Once the dating fantasy collapses and regret begins to surface, a new strategy often takes over. A strategy built on manipulation, revisionist history, and emotional distortion. This is where many men find themselves pulled into a psychological vortex they never saw coming. Because when someone doesn't want to face the consequences of their choices, they don't look inward. They look outward. And the easiest target is always the man they once shared a life with. This is where the gaslighting begins. Not the movie version gaslighting people joke about online, but the real kind. The kind that makes you question your memory, your intentions, and even your sanity. Suddenly, events you lived through are rewritten in real time. Conflicts you tried to solve are reframed as evidence that you were the problem. Their cheating becomes a reaction to your emotional distance. Their financial irresponsibility becomes something you caused. Their decision to leave becomes something you pushed them into. It's psychological sleight of hand, designed to protect their ego at your expense. Infidelity adds another layer of distortion. People who cheat rarely admit the truth, even to themselves. They justify it with stories that make the betrayal sound logical, even noble. They tell themselves they were lonely, misunderstood, unappreciated. They framed the affair as a spiritual awakening, a moment of clarity, a necessary escape. And once they commit to that story, they cling to it. They build their identity upon it. They defend it at all costs because the alternative, the truth, is too disgusting to confront. The fallout doesn't stay contained between two adults. It leaks into everything. Friendships fracture because they start spreading their version of events to anyone who will listen. Families get dragged into the mess with half-truths and emotional appeals. Children become pawns as they try to win sympathy or regain control. Even workplaces aren't safe when accusations, dramatics, or subtle smears start circulating. The goal isn't destruction for destruction's sake. The goal is survival of their narrative. If they can convince enough people that you're the villain, they never have to face what they did. And here's where many men get confused. They try to defend themselves with logic. They try to explain the timeline. They try to correct the record. But manipulation isn't defeated by logic. It thrives on emotional chaos. It grows when you react. It intensifies when you try to fix the lies. The harder you try to clear your name, the more it confirms their story in their mind. The only way to survive this stage is to understand the truth. You're not dealing with facts anymore. You're dealing with someone who can't emotionally afford to lose the story they built. And until you stop trying to win a game that's rigged from the start, you'll keep losing battles you should never have been fighting in the first place. By the time the manipulation reaches full speed, most men feel cornered, emotionally attacked, socially misunderstood, and legally vulnerable. But this is exactly why you need to shift from reacting to strategizing. Once you understand that you're not dealing with honesty, self-awareness, or fair play, everything changes. You begin to realize you can't out-explain a liar, you can't out-emotional a manipulator, and you definitely can't out-drama someone who lives off chaos. What you can do is build a shield they can't penetrate. The first layer of that shield is documentation. And I don't mean saving a few texts here and there. I mean treating every interaction like evidence. Because when the narrative gets twisted, when accusations appear out of nowhere, when their story starts drifting from reality, your receipts become your lifeline. Documentation turns "he said, she said" into "here's what actually happened." It removes ambiguity. It kills false allegations. It gives you power in environments, courts, mediations, custody discussions, where truth matters more than volume. The second layer is emotional neutrality, not silence. Neutrality. Manipulators feed on your reactions. They want to provoke you, corner you, or push you into saying something they can weaponize. When you stay calm, concise, and boring, you starve their strategy. It's not about being robotic. It's about refusing to be their emotional fuel. A manipulative ex doesn't know what to do with someone who gives them nothing to latch onto. The third layer is boundaries enforced like law. You don't negotiate with someone who twists your words. You don't debate with someone who rewrites history. You set limits and enforce them. If they cross a line, you respond with consequences, not conversation. That means rerouting communication through written channels. That means refusing off-topic emotional spirals. That means moving interactions to public documented places when necessary. Boundaries turn chaos into structure. And the final layer is legal awareness, not paranoia, awareness. Many men lose battles they shouldn't because they underestimate how far a manipulative ex will go. False accusations, financial sabotage, custody games, emotional setups. These aren't imaginary threats. They're patterns. And once you know the patterns, you prepare for them. You keep timelines. You protect your credit. You track your whereabouts. You get witnesses. You follow professional advice instead of emotional instinct. You stop playing defense and start playing long game. Because here's the truth. You don't beat manipulation with emotion. You beat it with preparation. You win by refusing to be the reactive one. You win by letting evidence speak louder than stories. And once you master that, their tactics stop feeling overwhelming. They start feeling predictable. Once you stop playing defense and reclaim control over your life, something unexpected happens. The chaos that once consumed you starts to lose its grip. The noise fades. The manipulation loses power. But this phase isn't about winning against your ex. It's about rebuilding the version of yourself that got buried under years of conflict, guilt, and emotional exhaustion. Because surviving manipulation is one thing. Rebuilding your identity after it is something entirely different. Most men don't realize how much damage a toxic breakup inflicts until the dust settles. You don't just lose a relationship. You lose confidence. You lose peace. You lose trust in your own judgment. And if you're not careful, you start treating your wounds like personality traits, as if the broken version of you is the permanent one. But healing is not optional. It's the foundation that prevents you from repeating the same story with someone new. Healing begins when you stop carrying emotional weight that isn't yours. Every accusation, every guilt trip, every revisionist narrative, they stick to you if you don't actively remove them. You have to separate who you were from who you were told you were. You weren't the failure. You weren't the cause of their actions. You weren't the villain in their fantasy. You were the one who kept the household together during the storm. And now that the storm is over, you get to rebuild from a place of clarity instead of survival. This is where your masculine frame returns. Not the internet version people argue about, but the real one. The version grounded in discipline, self-respect, and direction. The version that doesn't collapse under pressure, but grows because of it. You rebuild through small wins. Better sleep, better habits, better decisions. You surround yourself with people who don't drain you. You do the work you've been postponing. You build strength in your body and structure in your life. You start living like a man who refuses to be broken again. And the irony is that your growth becomes undeniable. You stop reacting. You stop chasing closure. You stop engaging with drama. You stop explaining yourself. You live with purpose again. And that's when the tables turn. Not because you wanted revenge, but because you chose evolution. Your life becomes the evidence that you didn't just survive. You transformed. Healing isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the life that finally belongs to you. When you finally rebuild yourself and reconnect with the man you were always meant to be, there's one truth that becomes impossible to ignore. You were never supposed to spend your life fighting someone who was committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you step out of that battlefield, clarity hits you like cold air. You realize how much time, energy, and identity you sacrificed trying to reason with someone who didn't want resolution, only dominance. And when that clarity settles, you understand the lesson most men only learn the hard way. You can't control what your ex becomes, but you can absolutely control the man you become after surviving them. This isn't about revenge. It's not about proving anything. It's not about winning some imaginary competition. The real victory is peace. The real victory is emotional freedom. The real victory is knowing that your life is no longer shaped by the chaos someone else created. Once you reclaim that peace, You stop engaging in pointless arguments. You stop caring about their narrative. You stop reacting to their provocations. You choose silence where chaos once lived. And that silence is what separates men who stay trapped from men who walk out stronger. But the long game doesn't end with personal growth. It continues with legacy. If you have children, they're watching everything. Not consciously, not directly. But over time, they learn who created the chaos and who stood firm. They learn who protected them and who used them. They learn who told the truth and who rewrote it. Kids grow up. Kids remember. And when they finally understand the full picture, they judge the adults in their lives with an honesty no court can match. Your job is to be the parent they can respect when they're old enough to see it clearly. And if you don't have kids, the principle stays the same. Your future relationships, friendships, opportunities, every one of them benefits from the man you're becoming now. You're no longer reactive. You're no longer desperate for validation. You're no longer afraid of loss. You carry experience, clarity, and standards forged through fire. And because of that, you won't repeat the same mistakes. You won't ignore red flags. You won't negotiate your self-worth. You'll live in a way that ensures your past doesn't decide your future. So here's the final message. You don't need closure. You don't need their apology. You don't need their approval. What you need is direction, discipline, peace, and the commitment to never let chaos steer your life again. You survived the storm. Now it's time to build a life so solid, so grounded, so fulfilling that the person who tried to break you becomes nothing more than a footnote in your story. That's the real victory. And it's yours the moment you decide you're done looking backward.